If you're going to have a career in comics, then there are going to be several instances where you're going to have to deal with some kind of contract. Your ability to understand and navigate these agreements can often be the difference between a fulfilling and profitable career and years of frustration and regret. So, the more you know about comic book contracts, the better off you'll be in the business. Now, I'm not going to spend time explaining what a contract is and why it's important. I did that in another video that you can find down in the show notes. I'm also not going to explain why you should work with an attorney whenever you're dealing with a contract and not just handle it yourself. There's another video on that subject that you can also find in the show notes. What I'm going to talk about here is the basic structure of a contract and how each element impacts your responsibilities, your rights, and your revenue. Every contract is different, but they all share similar elements that I break down into four categories: basic terms, business terms, foundation terms, and housekeeping terms. Basic terms are often called recitals. They answer the basic questions about the contract: who is involved, what their relationship is with each other, when the contract begins, where everyone lives or have an office if you're dealing with companies, and why everyone wants to get into this contract in the first place. Business terms are usually the part of the contract each side agrees to before they bring the terms to an attorney. Many non attorneys focus only on the hard numbers here, but this part of the contractual agreement also includes who has to deliver the goods, perform the services, or transfer the property rights, who has to pay for the goods, services, property, and what they have to pay and when they have to pay. If the contract isn't permanent, then how long the contract lasts. And most importantly, in the world of comics, who owns or controls the intellectual property rights? We're not going to get into IP rights here, but you can find that video on what IP is down in the show notes. Now, foundation terms establish the legal rules that govern the business terms. In my experience, lawyers spend more time in contract negotiation in this section than in the others, because depending on how the rules are structured, the business terms might be irrelevant. Foundation terms include language governing the definitions for specific words in the agreement, because words in a contract often don't have the same meaning as they do in regular life. The promises or warranties that are made by each side, the indemnities, which means who pays if the contract is broken or if anyone is sued because of the contract, the assignment, meaning who can give their rights and responsibilities in the contract to a completely different person, breach, which is what happens if the contract is not fulfilled or is terminated, and venue and forum, which is what body of law, state, federal, or international, will govern any dispute or litigation concerning the contract. Housekeeping terms are often incorrectly referred to as the boilerplate terms in the back of the contract. They're similar to the foundation terms because they define how the business terms in the contract will operate. The main difference between foundation and housekeeping terms is that they are normally not subject to a lot of negotiation, in my experience. There are exceptions, of course, but by and large, these terms are widely accepted, including how everyone will stay in contact or notice, what happens in the event of an unforeseen disaster or a force majeure, confirmation that everyone who signs the contract is over 18, read and understood the contract, and got advice from an attorney, promises to keep the confidential information, including the terms of the agreement, secure. Then at the end, the contract is signed, and you have an agreement for your comic. Now, drafting, negotiating, and signing contracts for your creative projects might take some time and cost you some money, but you'll save money in the long term and put both you and your book in a better position to succeed the more you understand about contracts. And as I said at the start of this video, every comic book contract is a unique situation. So this overview isn't legal advice, and I'm not inviting you to go out and write or negotiate your own contracts. If you have specific legal questions about a contract, you'd like to schedule a free consultation, you can find a link to my website in the notes and on the screen. If you'd like to find out more about the business and legal side of comics, you can join the Comics Publishing Institute with the other link on the notes and on the screen as well. Until then, have fun with your comics.